been like so far?
Yeah, really exciting times for us right now. You know, we have had our guys around for quite a bit of time. We've been in the gym, we've been in the weight room, we've been on the turf with all of our preseason workouts. It was actually longer preseason in some regards than we typically get, but still there's something a little different about that first official day of practice. Our guys were really excited. I was very pleased with our effort. Our conditioning was very good. And again, just we've got quite a few workouts under our belt, so it wasn't like we were starting from scratch, even though the first official day was just a few days ago.
What are the safety protocols in place for you guys? How much can you tell us what goes into, I guess, what's happening now in the COVID world with you guys?
Yeah, well, our football team has done such a good job of kind of laying the groundwork for us. You know, our guys come in every single day and fill out surveys, get their temperature checked every day before they can come in the building. We still have very limited access to our locker rooms. Things are different, for sure they're different. We're wearing our masks during practice. We're still wiping down balls, spraying down the balls, doing all those kinds of things, trying to keep our huddles real short. When we watch film, we're spaced out 6 feet apart for our film sessions, which is unusual. We've had to find a different space to watch film because our film room is kind of a tight space. So there's a lot of differences. But once we get going, once practice starts, other than the fact that we've got masks on, it feels kind of normal once practice starts.
What can you tell us about your schedule at this point? When do you expect to start the season?
Well, that's a great question. It changes constantly. Right before this meeting here, I was on the phone with another coach, two other coaches, trying to add a game, trying to move a game for the non-conference portion. It's been very, very difficult. It's I wouldn't say impossible, but it's been very, very difficult to put together a non-conference schedule. If you've just been paying attention to the national landscape, the MTEs, the multi-team events and tournaments are such an important part of the non-conference schedule, and those have just been changed dramatically. And then every time one of those gets affected, somebody else is affected. You know, we've got a plan in place. We know what we're trying to do. We're trying to get those games scheduled. We feel like we're pretty close with our non-conference portion, and then the league will be coming out very, very soon with the conference schedule. They've been working real hard on that the last few weeks. They've got their plan, I think, ready to go, and would anticipate them releasing that in the next day or two. But we're anticipating playing on the opening night, which is November 25th. So we'll have hopefully 30 practices under our belt at that time, but that's so far off right now. We're just trying to focus on getting better today and trying to string together practices, trying to stay healthy, stay COVID-free, so we can put together a bunch of practices before that first game.
Greg, you're up.
Steve, how have the guys responded to all of those different things you mentioned, like having to practice with masks on or be spaced out in the film room? Has it changed, like, the focus or the attitude of the group at all? How have they handled it?
Surprisingly well, to be honest with you. I thought they'd be complaining about the masks and pulling those masks off. It took a little adjustment. They had to get used to it, but now it's just part of the deal. I think they're just so appreciative. They understand that there's a lot of teams that have not even started practice yet. They understand a lot of teams have been shut down. They're very, very excited to be on the court. They understand that it takes some effort on their part away from the court to be allowed to be on the court. They appreciate the efforts of our administration. Our sports medicine department has been unbelievable through all of this. So they're just grateful to have the opportunity to be in practice every day. And again, it's hard to plan very far in advance because things change constantly. Our practice days will probably get affected. They'll be changed. Some things just keep popping up. But our guys have handled all of that very, very well to this point.
Have you guys as a coaching staff really had to hammer home the importance of doing all those things, both like in the team setting, but even away from the team setting? How much do you talk about it with them?
Yeah, the hardest part really, and it's kind of goes back to your other question, the hardest part is away from the court. You know, our guys understand, you know, okay, we can't go sit in the locker room. We can't sit in there where we usually want our guys hanging out in the locker room. We want them hanging out in the film room. We want them hanging out in each other's apartments and dorm rooms. But away from the court right now is where it's really, really challenging. It's the sports that have lost their seasons are really struggling mentally because they don't have the games coming up. Our guys have that incentive. They know that we have to make good decisions away from the court in order to have a chance to practice. They know we have to make good decisions in order to have a chance to play games and pull off a season. We keep talking about the fact that the season won't be fair. Things are going to pop up. You've seen it in football. You've seen it in other sports. It's not going to be fair. We just got to control what we can control. I mean, that's the cliche. We're hearing it a lot, but that's exactly what we have to do. So, yeah, we're trying to challenge our guys to come to practice, go take care of their schoolwork, sit in their rooms, be antisocial. All the things we usually tell them not to do, we're telling them to do now.
Yeah, it's to that point, the season's going to be different and everything is going to be different in a lot of ways. For guys who are either newcomers or even like a senior who has been envisioning this season for a long time, is it tough for them mentally to have it just be so much different from the experience that they were expecting? How have you seen that so far?
Well, it hasn't hit yet for us, fortunately. I mean, it hit us this summer, obviously affected our summer workouts. But once we got our guys here, we had more workouts now than we've ever had prior to the first day of starting practice. The NCAA allowing us to have 12 hours there for a while. It was a new ruling there. So we've been in the gym a lot. Right now, it's just a question: can we stay healthy? Can we continue to do what we need to do, string together practices, and prepare for that first game, and hopefully we pull off the first game. We don't spend a lot of time talking about what's going to happen down the road, but we do talk about the fact that some things aren't going to be fair. We anticipate we're going to play somebody, and we may have somebody out. We're going to play somebody. They may have somebody out. The schedule's going to get shifted. We understand that, but I think that's so far down the road for our players right now. They're just looking forward to practice number 4.
Evan, next up.
Hey, Coach. Want to ask you because your season kind of ended right as this pandemic was beginning, and I'm just wondering how the off season has been, just mentality wise, and how often you've been in communication with your players from March to where you guys are leading up now, and how you handled that with the entire group.
Yeah, that's a great question. Our season, we were eliminated, so that's a little different than some of these other sports that just had their entire spring taken away, or some of the teams that were still playing basketball at the end of the season that still had hopes of going to the NCAA tournament or competing for their championship. So our season was concluded, but it doesn't mean it was easy. I mean, early on, we just tried to make sure we continued to meet with our guys, as many Zooms as we could have, just to stay connected. We were very, very worried about everybody because none of us had been through it. And so we met a lot. We had, I know all the coaches across the country, there were so many coaches getting on Zoom those first 2 or 3 weeks of the shutdown. It was like coaching clinics on computers every single night. The opportunity to get on there and learn, the opportunity to get on there and speak to different groups was exciting for the coaches, but we worried about the players through all of that. The uncertainty, of course, was difficult for everyone. So we just didn't want to go very long without seeing them, even if it was as we're doing here. It was very, very uncomfortable to not be able to see them in person. The first day when we were allowed to get them on campus just to come and sign some forms and pick up their masks was like a day we celebrated. I mean, just to see them and air high fives, it was still early. We didn't know if we could fist bump or hug or what we could do, but it was just so good for our spirits that day just to see our guys. We hadn't seen them in months. And then we started putting some things into place to get them back onto campus. We had different phases. We had some guys that were already in town that were allowed to come in a little bit earlier. That was harder on the new guys that weren't allowed to come in right away. We had an international kid that came in, a freshman, came in before the 2 Texas freshmen could come in. So that was a little bit different. So it's been different phases. It's been different challenges with each group. But now we feel pretty good about what's going on.
What's it like having Javon and Keaton there, just having a couple of leaders to guide the players through that period?
Well, it's terrific. We've got a fairly mature group. We've got a whole bunch of seniors and fourth-year juniors. We've got several fourth-year juniors, guys that are redshirted or transferred. So we've got some maturity on this group. Keaton and Javon have been doing just an unbelievable job. They've been consistent with their effort, with their leadership, helping the new guys out. Again, some of those new guys got thrown right into the fire. Again, when they gave us 12 hours a week, we got a lot of basketball in those weeks leading up to the first official practice. So leadership is important through all this. helping the new guys. We've got a nice mix again of returners, key guys returning, but also some newcomers that are going to play important roles for us. So the leadership is going to be key with this group.
And we mentioned the schedule a little bit. I know Conference USA will come out with it soon, but what are your thoughts on the notion of having those 2 home games, right? They're going to kind of pod them up over the weekends. And that seems like a new quirk that makes a lot of sense given the time and circumstances of everything in our country right now.
Yeah, when that model first came out, it sounded way outside the box. But obviously people put a lot of time and effort into that. It was well thought out. And again, ultimately, every coach, when we were on those meetings, every coach said, we want to play. Whatever gives us the best chance to play games. The model that we settled on may not be the most fair. Again, that word's going to keep coming up. We won't play everybody in our league. That's not ideal, but in this climate, we just felt that was the best thing to do. So, yeah, it's going to be different than anything we've ever experienced before. But, again, our guys, just like our guys are excited to get to practice right now, they're going to be thrilled to play a ball game. If there's 100 people in the stands, if there's nobody in the stands, the opportunity to line up and play, our guys will not take that for granted. They understand that it's going to take a lot of work from a lot of people, administration, sports medicine, our own guys. We've got to handle our business. Coach Traylor said it way back in June. He said he was just going to have his guys ready. He said, I don't know who we're going to play. We're going to play somebody. And that really resonated with me. And I've been telling our guys the same thing. We got to be ready. We don't know yet what our non-conference schedule is going to be, but we're going to line up and play somebody, and we need to be ready to go.
And then also the decision to allow scholarships to carry over, I guess, make it a free year. Just how important was that decision by the NCAA, in your opinion?
Well, it was a huge decision. It was a no-brainer, I think, for sports that lost their opportunity last spring to give those kids back an opportunity. If hopefully we end up playing close to a full schedule, and then it'll be kind of odd, if some of these guys, if some of our guys would come back for their super senior year, a 5th year, imagine what those record books would look like. There's going to be a lot of interesting scenarios there. But again, that's so far down the road, we're not worried about it. You hear some people say, well, hopefully if we schedule 30 games, hopefully we can play 20. I'd like to be more optimistic than that even, but we know there's some potential, just like there has been every Saturday this fall. Every Saturday there's a handful of games have been canceled with football. We know there's going to be some adjustments need to be made. We just want to play games.
Yeah, and this is my last question, I promise. It's funny you say that because Javon could maybe pull off like a Cal Ripken-esque sort of record at UTSA. But what should we expect from this team come the winter and I guess the winter. I don't know. All these seasons are messed up. But what can we expect from this team? What's going to be sort of the foundation that you want out of your group as you begin play?
Well, I think if you were able to come watch us practice right now, you'd see a better defensive team, a bigger commitment on the defensive end. We're longer, quicker. Our mindset is much better right now. Our starting point is way ahead of where it would have been a year ago. We're going to score. Javon and Keaton are going to score. We've got other guys that can make plays. We've got good depth. But ultimately, we've got to be a better defensive team. And the emphasis has been there. The commitment has been there. I'm very, very pleased with what our guys have done to this point. Again, just having a couple other guys in there that can cover ground, make up for mistakes, eliminate mistakes on the defensive end. We think we have a chance to be a much improved team on the defensive end.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
JJ, you're up.
Me?
You're muted, JJ.
Sorry about that. Yeah, Steve, I wanted to ask you about your transfer from Houston, Cedric Alley. Just what does he bring to the table? And I guess how did you guys get in on him being able to transfer here?
Yeah, very excited about Cedric Alley. Was a terrific high school player. We recruited him very, very aggressively out of high school. We felt good about our chances. He took an official visit with his mother. We just weren't able to land him the first go around. And when he put his name in the portal, we reached out to him and we're excited to get him on the rebound. He's a big wing, can play the 3, he can play the 4, covers a lot of ground defensively. Coming from Houston, we know he's going to have some great habits on the defensive end. Their identity with defense and toughness over there at the University of Houston will help him as he comes in here, bring a little different dynamic to our team. Again, he's 6'5", 6'6", probably 230, can make threes, got a pretty good feel for passing the ball, very versatile. just again, the kind of body that we don't have many guys that are built like him and that can cover as much ground as he can on the defensive end.
Greg, you're up.
Steve, understanding that a lot of it is still up in the air, what was sort of the thought process on trying to find your non-conference games? Was there a specific approach that you took, whether it was to stay local or anything like that you had in mind?
Oh boy, there were so many different elements to the non-conference scheduling. Yes, travel, we had some parameters put in for us that made a lot of sense. If we could schedule relatively locally, we were trying to do that. At one point, we were looking at possibly having it set up where we would only have one or two flights in the non-conference. If we were to finalize our schedule right now, we would only have two road trips where we would have to get on an airplane. So those things were factors. The money piece was changed dramatically. The Power Fives, many of them cut their guarantee payments in half or more. A lot of them just didn't have guarantee games available for mid-majors and low majors. So factoring in travel, factoring in budget and finances and what money we needed to bring in, what money we were going to spend for travel, all those things were factors. Some people felt like they should try to get in the MTEs. You probably read about a lot of these bubble situations. Some people felt like that was a great scenario. You just signed up and go to Vegas or signed up and go to Orlando and kind of piece it together that way. We were a little more comfortable having more control over our schedule. So at this point, unless something just falls into our lap at the last minute, we probably will not be involved with an MTE, which means we'll play 2 fewer non-conference games than some of the other people in the country. But certainly limiting the travel was important to us. Trying to find a way to get some home games without spending money. It's hard to do. It's always hard to do. That's always a big challenge for us. The dates weren't a big deal when they pushed us back 2 weeks and then eliminated 3 or 4 games from the schedule. That kind of just solved itself in terms of the dates. So that wasn't a big issue though.
Was it complicated to get out of some of the previously scheduled matchups that didn't work either because of the timing or whatever other reason?
Yeah, very difficult, very difficult. And there's going to be situations all across the country where people are breaking contracts, or they're going to turn it over to the lawyers to figure out the COVID piece, the language in those contracts where contracts were broken or where payments were cut in half. So there's a lot of things that won't ever really make the news, but a lot of behind the scenes things will be going on with those contracts. But yeah, maneuvering today, again, literally today, we had a game that we felt very, very good about. We continued to talk to the other coach, tried to have that date locked in, got a call from another coach with a game that makes even more sense for us. So now we're trying to flip-flop some dates. If we try to flip-flop a date with one opponent, well, that affects their other opponents. And all these things are just tied together, and it makes it very, very difficult. Everybody's there's a little bit of selfishness. Everybody's got to protect themselves and try to put together the best schedule that they can. There's different philosophies going out there. Again, some of the people absolutely feel the need to be in MTEs. A lot of people are having their own MTEs at this point as well. So it's been a real challenge. We're not that far away from the first game, and we're not even close to. Well, we are close, but we're not done. We're not close to releasing it yet. We're close to finalizing it in our minds, and then we got to get all the contracts done and approved and check with facilities, check the women's schedule. So there's a lot goes into it.
What does the testing protocol look like for you guys now, and how will it be handled during the season?
Yeah, we're testing fairly regularly with the entire group, but then we've got spot checks with all of our groups weekly. Again, we have the daily temperature checks and surveys. Once we start playing games, Conference USA rules, I think, line up with the NCAA suggestions. Everyone will test 3 days a week prior to the games. That includes us and our opponents. Again, that goes into the scheduling piece. Just because we know what we're doing on the testing piece, if we play a non-Division I opponent, are they doing the testing that we require? So that's a big factor. But it'll be 3 days a week once we start playing games.
And it's just once a week through the practice season, right?
Yeah, or if if there's anything pops up, symptoms, then we'll test. We'll test roommates, those types of things. Sports medicine folks have been terrific. They've been a driving force through all this. They've handled it in unbelievable fashion. It's been fascinating watching them go through this, but got to tip our hats to them.